Night was supposed to be rest. That was the idea everyone repeated, but for him, night became something else entirely. A long stretch of hours where the world went quiet and his mind became unbearably loud. He would lie in bed, eyes closed, body exhausted, yet fully alert. His heart wasn't racing, but it wasn't calm either. A strange tension lived beneath his ribs, as if his nervous system had forgotten how to stand down. Sleep felt close, but unreachable, like standing at the edge of water, unable to step in. Once, during a rare moment of clarity, a thought crossed his mind and stayed longer than expected. The body can only rest when it feels safe. At the time, he didn't fully understand it. Later, it explained everything. The nights followed a pattern. He would tell himself this time would be different. He'd dim the lights, put his phone away, lie still. For a few minutes, hope lingered. Then the thoughts arrived, quiet at first, then persistent. What if tomorrow goes wrong? What if this lack of sleep finally breaks me? What if something is wrong with my body and I just haven't noticed yet? He didn't invite these thoughts. They appeared on their own, as if his mind believed night was the perfect moment to review every unresolved fear. The clock became his enemy. Each glance confirmed what he already felt. Time was passing and sleep wasn't coming. The more he tried to force rest, the more awake he became. His body stiffened, his breathing turned shallow. Anxiety wrapped itself around his chest, not violently, but persistently. But what happened next would quietly shape his life for years. Days became harder. His body moved through routines, but his mind lagged behind, foggy and irritable. Conversations felt heavier. Small problems felt enormous. He began fearing bedtime long before night arrived. That fear followed him everywhere. He worried about his health, about work, about money, about whether his exhaustion made him look weak, unreliable, behind. He compared himself to people who seemed functional, energetic, stable. People who slept. At night, scrolling became a ritual. A distraction that promised relief and delivered stimulation. He searched symptoms, read stories, compared timelines. Every answer brought new questions. Every attempt to calm himself taught his brain one thing: night equals threat. He didn't realize that moment was already training his nervous system to stay awake. Insomnia wasn't just lack of sleep anymore. It was hypervigilance. His body learned that darkness meant danger. Silence meant vulnerability. His mind stayed alert not because it wanted to torture him, but because it believed it was protecting him. Some nights were worse than others. Lying still, heart heavy, listening to the sound of his own breathing, he wondered if this was permanent. If this was who he had become. Someone who lived tired. Someone who dreaded rest. What followed challenged everything he believed about control. One night, after another failed attempt to sleep, he stopped fighting. Not in defeat, but in curiosity. Instead of forcing rest, he noticed his body. The tension in his jaw. The subtle clenching in his stomach. The way his breath barely reached his lungs. He realized something unsettling. He wasn't afraid of being awake. He was afraid of not being in control. Sleep required surrender, and his anxious mind didn't trust surrender. The shift didn't happen overnight. There was no sudden deep sleep, no miracle evening, but there were small changes. He stopped watching the clock, stopped chasing sleep like a task to complete. He focused on calming his body instead of silencing his thoughts. Some nights he still didn't sleep well, but the fear softened, and that made all the difference. He began to understand that anxiety steals sleep, not by keeping the mind busy, but by keeping the body unsafe. By convincing the nervous system that rest equals risk. The solution wasn't effort. It was reassurance, repetition, patience. He asked himself questions that once felt impossible. What if wakefulness isn't dangerous? What if tomorrow doesn't need to be perfect? What if my body knows how to recover if I let it? There was one realization he only understood later, something that might help others too. Anxiety doesn't need to disappear for sleep to return. It needs to lose authority. The body needs to relearn safety, slowly, gently, consistently. If your nights feel endless, if sleep feels stolen rather than delayed, there are psychological tools that go deeper into this process. They're shared in the description and comments, and they focus on calming the anxious nervous system and reducing fear at its source. Because sleep doesn't come from forcing the mind to stop. It comes when the body finally believes it's safe enough to let go.